it's very similar to the children that are coming across the border. Every single day, it seems like I get questions as to, well, why aren't their parents searching for them? Hello, their parents sold them to
Yeah.
trafficking cartels.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
It
Yeah.
says,
Or they were kidnapped.
and they're coming from countries where the economy is horrible.
Yes.
These
High
people
crime.
cannot afford to search for their children. They can barely afford to feed themselves, let alone travel the world to find their child. Just horrible. So,
Now, there's
wanted to
a
make sure.
video that I was trying to find it here. It went viral on social media recently where border agents encountered, here it is, a 2-year-old girl. It says, this is Chris Olivares. Let's see, he's a lieutenant with the Texas Department of Public Safety. He says, an unaccompanied 2-year-old child from El Salvador explains in the video she arrived in the U.S. by herself and that her parents are in the U.S., supposedly. The child had a piece of paper with a phone number and a name. But if the parents are in the U.S., why isn't the child already in the U.S.? Why does she have to be trafficked over the border? That makes no sense. Chris continues, this morning, Texas DPS encountered a group of 211 illegal immigrants in Maverick County, Texas. Among the group were 60 unaccompanied children ages 2 to 17, 60 of them, and 6 special interest immigrants from Mali and Angola. This is a stark example of the precarious journey these children make from their home country and how criminal organizations traffic these children across the southern border and further into the interior. He says, regardless of political views, this is unacceptable for any child to be exposed to dangerous criminal trafficking networks. With a record number of unaccompanied children and hundreds of thousands already missing, there is no one ensuring the safety and security of these children except for the men and women who are on the front lines daily. Despite the criticism over the years, the reality is that many children are exploited and trafficked, never to be heard from again. So far, the Texas DPS has rescued over 900 children. 900 rescued during Operation Lone Star from abandonment and human smuggling. Cute little girl.
So cute. Oh my goodness, my heart is broken. Do you know what it's taken for me to not go to the border? And I am so passionate about saving these kids that I'm even looking into opening a private membership association so I can do those kinds of operations if I want to. But that I digress. These kids are just being preyed upon, and the policies in America are enabling them to not only be preyed upon, but to be trafficked into America, which leads me to my next topic that just kind of came to me. Who's buying these kids?
I
Americans?
think, yeah, Americans for sure. I think if we came full circle, I think we might have just come full circle. It's probably the same people uploading.
So I was talking to the head of the Me Too Moms movement a couple days ago, and she was telling me that, yes, all these kids are being trafficked into America and they're being sold in America. One, who are they
Yeah.
being sold to? And then two, because there's such an issue, which we've talked about many times on this podcast about the family court system. She shed light on something that I am still stewing over and still trying to wrap my head around. And if y'all want to, you can look into the Me Too Moms reports that are being published. And that is that there has, as we've seen, there has been such corruption in the family court system by judges who they introduced alienation to the family court system and reunification, which we saw with the Rachel Pickrell Hawkins case out of Colorado.
Yeah.
The reason that we're finding so many judges are placing kids with the abuser and alienating them from the protective parent is because, now this is what she's saying, and I still need to read the mom reports that she sent me and is public on their website with lots of documentation and evidence to support these claims. So I want to encourage you to look at them, and maybe we'll dissect them and talk about them next week or something.
Yeah.
But she said that she has ample evidence to prove that when a child sexual abuse case is presented to the court system and the child is placed with the abuser, it's because the judge is using the abuser as a mule. And I'm like, what do you mean as a mule? And she said to create child pornography, to smuggle drugs and weapons and other things. So they get to keep their kid, but there's a cost to them. I'm like, that sounds really conspiratorial. Like, that sounds crazy. She's like, then go read the mom's reports. Go look at the documentation.
Nothing would surprise me. I think that probably happens in some cases. My question would be, how widespread is that? Because I would think, no, there's definitely a lot of corrupt judges, but that's a very specific kind of corruption. I don't know how widespread that is.
Yeah.
Man, it just, the way that these sweet, precious children are being sold in other countries, trafficked over the border, and just disappeared into America, it's really, really dark. Really dark. There's some very bad.
Where are the kids going? Because you don't see these kids who were missing just pop up.
Yeah, you saw that little girl. She's trafficked over the border. She has what looks like a Post-it note with a phone number on it. Whose phone number is that? I'll guarantee you it's not her parents, not her biological parents. I think there are some cases, and I do not know why this happens. There are some cases where parents want to adopt a child and they literally buy them this way. I heard a story. This I believe it was a little girl, went missing, and then 30 years, so she was kidnapped. I want to say it was at a bus stop or a playground or something like that. She's kidnapped by a stranger. It's a literal case of stranger danger. But then she was sold to this couple who couldn't have children. And why on God's green earth that didn't raise red flags to them, or why they didn't, go through a legal adoption process, I have no idea. But, so that does happen. But generally speaking, people who go through criminal means to acquire a child, they're criminals. And they should not be trusted with a child because they are going to expose the child to other forms of crime, including child abuse material, trafficking. They're going to pimp them out. They're going to expose them to drugs. There's just a plethora of evil that these kids can get exposed to, and none of it is okay. And we've still got, on Biden's watch, what was it, 300,000 children missing?
It's over that. Yeah, I think the DHS report a couple months ago said 325,000. Just saw a report a couple weeks ago that said it was 475,000 kids now. And that is in addition to the reported 460,000 American kids that go missing every single year.
Yeah.
And that is a DHS report as well. Where are these kids going?
It's like an entire city of people missing.
A year.
Yeah.
A year. Where are they? People just don't just disappear. They go somewhere.
Yeah.
And there's so many theories out there as to where these kids are going. I know we have touched on some really controversial topics like satanic ritual abuse, and I know that's just a fringe amount of where those kids are probably going. But there's been reports in Florida of child labor trafficking, where kids are being placed in business operations in the middle of the night while we're all sleeping. They're being transported in really nice vans. They don't look like those stranger danger vans that your parents warned you about in the 80s. They are nice vehicles that these kids are being transported in.
Yeah.
And it's happening in the dead of the night as if they have something to hide or something, right? Because it's an illegal operation.
Yeah, because they're criminals. They're child traffickers. It's just amazing.
It's
just horrifying.
I'm hoping that the turn of the administration will mean an urgent searching and rescuing of where these kids are.
Yeah, and a crackdown on the policies and procedures that allowed this to happen, because obviously there are loopholes that allow children to disappear. And I read one article where it's sometimes the kid just gets picked up by their parents and then we forget to write it down.
Yeah.
It just maybe you should do that.
Yeah. Yeah,
No,
for
maybe they're
real.
staying with family, but it's just like, fact is, when these children are in the custody of our government, they have to be held. The government has to be accountable for that. They can't just, maybe they were kidnapped. Maybe they went off. Maybe they're staying with an aunt. Maybe they're staying with their grandparents. Maybe they're being trafficked. Like the fact that they don't know is completely unacceptable. And honestly, a lot of people need to be fired. A lot of people need to be
I
fired. It's
I
insane.
agree. There's a documentary that I just watched not that long ago, and I think it's called What is Treason? Or Is
Mm,
This Treason? It's a documentary by Ryan Matta Media.
yeah.
And it shows that NGOs are working and contracted by the government to get these kids from the border and transport them to sponsors. And it proves that these sponsors are not family members of these kids. Not only are they not family members, but they're not vetted. There's no background check. There's no
So it's like the
verification of
foster
address.
system, but worse.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
It's horrible. I encourage everybody to go watch it because it does expose how our present government is making an astronomical amount of money through child trafficking at the southern border. And I don't know how to put it any other way than that. And it's a hard reality to face and to stomach that our tax dollars are going for these kinds of things.